Welcome. This week we're going to go over lessons 73 through 76. How was it last week with your children working into the hundreds? Well, guess what? We're going to do more work into the hundreds this week. But before we get started, let's see what materials will be needed. You're going to need your abacus, the part whole circle set, your place value cards, math card game book along with the basic number card deck, the worksheets, the abacus tiles, some glue, and scissors. Lesson 73, Hundreds Problems. As you can see on that first page, this is where you need your part whole circle set. And it shows using the place value cards, but know that you can use the abacus tiles. It will depend on your child. Some children need to see the abacus tiles to be able to see what 200 is, because each tile represents one abacus, which is 100 beads. Some children will do just fine using the place value cards. Start with the place value cards. If your child struggles with that, then bring in the abacus tiles. The game for this lesson is Old Main. It is A4 in the math card game book. You'll be needing your basic number cards. You'll need one of each of these cards for each person who is playing. So if there's two people playing, you're going to need 2 ones, 2 twos, and so forth. It also says that you must have an even number of 5s. So if there's 3 people playing, you're going to need an additional 5, so you have an even number of 5s. So let's just say there's 2 people playing. You'll get the 2 ones, the 2 twos, all the way up to 2 9s. Then you're going to shuffle those cards together without looking. Maybe you can have your child do this. Pick one of those cards out of the deck. You're going to lay it down. Nobody can look at this card. It's what we call the dead card. Then you're going to deal the remaining cards left, and then you're going to play. So what you'll do is the goal is you're going to make 10. So this game is a little different than Go to the Dump, because Go to the Dump, you're asking for a card. In this game, you're going to take one of the other player's cards. So you're just going to reach over and grab one of their cards, and then you're going to look at your own deck, see if you can make 10. Did you pick a card that can make 10 with another card? If so, you lay those cards down. The play will continue. Then it's the next person's turn. They reach over and grab a card. You keep going until there's only one card left, which is the dead card. So the person who ends the game without the dead card is the winner. Lesson 74, adding 10s and 1s. Again, you get to use the part whole circle set. And what's interesting is you're going to use 10s and 1s. So you're going to put the whole number in the whole part. So the example here shows 27. And then your child has to find the parts. So these problems are story problems. You're going to read the story problem to your child. You may have to read it more than once. Then they're going to fill in, or if you need to, you can write it in where these go. Do we need it to put in the part circle? Does it go into the whole circle? Once you establish where those numbers go, then allow your child to figure out what the missing circle is. And let them figure it out in their own way. Sometimes that's hard for us parents. We want to tell them the easy way, but that's okay if it's not. Let them figure it out first. I thought the first explanation for the teacher was really interesting. How children can understand that 27 or 210 is 2 10s and a 7. But then when you put 20 plus 7, they struggle a little bit understanding what they're doing with the plus. And so it may take some time for it to be truly understood. And look at the objectives. It's kind of interesting. It talks about adding 10s and 1s with problems and then 10 and 1s with equations. And sometimes you think of it as being the same thing, or at least I do. But the problem is what you're doing on the part whole circle set. The equation is what they're going to write after they figure out what are the parts, what are the whole. It just helps them to better understand what an equation is. Remember, an equation is what is on one side of the equal sign must be equal to what's on the other side of the equal sign. And then they get to show the answer on the abacus as well as the place value cards. And I really like the fact that they get to do this because it just reiterates what the number is. That 210.7 is really two tens and a 7. Then when you're using the place value cards, it's again reiterating it's not just a 2 and a 7, it's 210. Then you put that 7 up on top of the 0 on the 210. Again, just reinforcing that 210.7 or 27 is 20 or 2 tens, right? And 7. So on the worksheet, if your child needs to use the abacus, let them use it. And then for the game, there's 2 to choose from. And both of these games you've played before. So maybe you can ask your child which one they would prefer to play. And then save the other one for that 5th day. Lesson 75, counting by tens and making the hundreds chart. As you can see, they're going to use their abacus as they practice counting by tens. Then you'll bring in the place value cards. It's kind of like a game where you can either enter a group of tens on the abacus and your child will have to find it with the place value cards, or you show the place value card and then your child has to find it on the abacus. And you know what? Let your child flip-flop also. Let them give you a number and then you have to find it on the abacus, or you have to find the place value card. And then your child has to let you know if it's right or not. The second activity, counting by ones, can probably be a little bit tedious. If you notice on the top of the second page, you're going to use the place value cards, the tens and then the ones. And as they enter a number on the abacus, they're going to represent it using the place value cards. But if you lay it out like it shows on the book, it'll make it go a little bit quicker. But just know it can be considered tedious, but it's so important. So don't skip it. It helps your child to see that when you're getting into the tens, it's not a 2 and a 4, it's 24. It's not a 3 and a 6, it's 36 or 310.6. Again, it's reinforcing the place value. All right, then you have the worksheet, building the hundreds chart. This is not to be completed in a day. Now, if you have a child who can complete it in a day, let them. But if you don't have children who can complete this in a day, because remember, they just got done counting 1 to 100 using the place value cards. Now they're going to use the worksheet and fill it in. This could be done over 3 days. And remember, you have that 5th day. So take advantage of it. Encourage your children to use the place value cards as they're building their numbers. Just like I said earlier, it just reinforces the place value. And place value understanding is so important. It is the foundation of arithmetic. When you understand place value, it makes math so much easier. Last lesson for this week, lesson 76. 1,000 triangle. This lesson is all about working with 1,000. You're going to build the 1,000 triangle. Thankfully, you have a worksheet that you can use for this. The child is going to have to cut out these triangles that have 100 triangles on each triangle. And you'll see how that is when you're looking at these triangles. Actually, you could look on the second page. You'll see the triangle. The big white triangles, that's like empty space. Let's just don't even count that at all. That would be like these triangles attached and then there's just nothing in the middle. But of course it's on paper, so we can't do that. Notice on the triangles though, you have a littler triangle that also has white triangles. Don't count those. You're only counting the dark triangles. So each little triangle has 10. There's 10 of those black triangles, So that equals 100. So one of these little triangles has 100 triangles on it. Then they're going to build it onto a bigger triangle where they're going to have 10 triangles with 100 on each triangle. So this is like the conclusion of what you've been working on in lesson 26 and in lesson 36. In lesson 26 is where they glued the 10 just solid black triangles onto a bigger triangle. So you have that triangle for 10. You can look at that worksheet. It's worksheet number 6. Then in lesson 36, this is worksheet 9-2. I built a triangle with 100. So those little triangles looked a little bit different. They had 10, and then you had 10 small ones put together to make 100. Now in this one, we're upping it. We're increasing it. Now each little triangle has 100. Again, if they need to continue working on the 100 chart, make time for that. And for the game, you need to pick one of these games because you want to work on sums that equal 10. So there's 3 choices. Let your child pick, or maybe you pick, just depending on the mood that you're in. All right, we're done. We made another week. Gosh, we are progressing, aren't we? I am so proud of you guys. Remember, take time to work over having your children fill in the 100 chart. Enjoy playing these games, working on sums that equal 10. And I will see you next week. Oh, if you guys have questions or concerns, as I've said before, feel free to contact us. You'll see the number on the screen, or you can email us at info@rightstartmath.com. And you can always contact me personally at debbie@rightstartmath.com. Join me next week as we go over lessons 77 to 80. Until then.